Domain 5, War of 1812, Lesson 3, Mr. and Mrs. Madison. It was a beautiful spring day in Central Virginia. 10-year-old J.P. and his younger sister Adele raced from their home through the pasture or field that led to their grandfather's farmhouse. Though originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, their grandfather Lafitte now lived on a neighboring horse farm. Grandfather Lafitte loved to tell the children stories. Today he promised to tell them all about the War of 1812. J.P. was learning about this war in school, and of course Adele wanted to know everything about anything her brother was doing. Before he retired, their grandfather had been a history professor. He declared that he was an expert on the subject. Grandfather began. James Madison was born on March 16, 1751. He grew up on a large plantation in central Virginia, not far from where we are right now. His family's home was called Montpelier. As a young boy, Jemmy, as his father called him, was homeschooled or taught at home. It has been said that he read every book that his father had in his library, and Mr. Madison had a lot of books. When he was 17, James went to the College of New Jersey, which is now called Princeton University. Just as he did when he was young, James Madison loved to read. He enjoyed learning Latin and Greek and to debate in college. He actually graduated from college in only 2 years. I like learning Spanish in school, Adele nodded enthusiastically. I'm glad that you do, replied Grandfather Lafitte, smiling at his granddaughter. He continued, as a young man, James Madison did not like the way the colonies were run by Britain. He thought the colonists should be able to govern themselves. In 1774, when he was just 23 years old, James Madison became a leader in the House of Burgesses. The next year, the colonies were at war with Great Britain. This war, the Revolutionary War, lasted until 1783. Americans won their freedom, and they became citizens of a new nation, the United States of America. Didn't James Madison write the Constitution? Asked J.P. You are right, replied Grandfather. After the war he continued to be involved in governing Virginia. He is perhaps most famous for his role in helping to write the Constitution, though. James Madison was the one who had the idea to use each state's population as a way of deciding how many elected representatives it should have in Congress. He was also responsible for organizing the government into 3 branches with different powers. In fact, much of the Constitution was written by James Madison. But he did get some help from George Washington and many other founding fathers. James Madison also helped to write another part of the Constitution called the Bill of Rights. When are you going to tell us about Dolly Madison? Asked Adele. Mama says she was a really interesting lady. Yes, she was, replied Grandfather Lafitte. That's coming next. Don't you worry. People who knew him said that James Madison was a shy and serious man. He also had some health problems. His poor health and his involvement in politics, he was a very busy man, meant that he did not spend much time socializing. However, in 1793, when he was 42, James Madison met a young woman named Dolly Payne Todd. Dolly Todd was 25 when she met James Madison. She previously had been married to a man named John Todd. She and her husband John had 2 sons, John Payne and William. Sadly, Dolly's first husband and her youngest son William both died from yellow fever. Dolly, who was known to be very cheerful and outgoing, turned to her friends and family for support. Her friends introduced her to James Madison. When they met, James Madison was a member of the House of Representatives. They liked each other and began to spend more and more time together. They got married in 1794. Where did they live after they got married? Asked Adele. Well, at first they lived in James Madison's family home, Montpelier, not too far from here. However, in 1801, when his close friend Thomas Jefferson became president, the Madisons moved to the new capital. Washington, D.C.? exclaimed Adele. Exactly, replied Grandfather Lafitte. James Madison became Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of State. That meant that he was responsible for dealing with other countries on behalf of the United States. Almost immediately he had problems with Great Britain and France. What kind of problems, Grandfather? asked Adele. Both countries were interfering with U.S. merchant ships, said Grandfather. Why were they doing that? asked J.P., who by now had finished his entire ham sandwich. You see, a series of wars had broken out in Europe. These wars were named after a man who started them, the well-known French military leader Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon wanted France to become the most powerful nation in the world, but Great Britain and other European nations wanted to stop him. Britain had one problem, though. Although it had a powerful navy, it did not have enough sailors. To get more sailors, they captured men and forced them to join their navy. In the beginning they only captured men in their own country, but as the Napoleonic Wars continued, they began to stop American ships and capture members of their crew too. That must not have made James Madison very happy, said Adele. It didn't. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't convince the British to stop. After being president for 2 terms, Thomas Jefferson suggested that his friend James Madison run for president. In March 1809, James Madison became the 4th president of the United States. And Dolly Madison became the First Lady? quizzed Adele. She did indeed, replied Grandfather Lafitte. Dolly Madison was actually the First Lady. She was an excellent hostess. She had magnificent parties. She was known for her love of fashion and had quite a few fine dresses. She even helped to design the interior of the new president's house, which we now know as the White House. By the time James Madison came into office, war was looming. Many members of Congress were urging him to declare war on Great Britain. They thought the British had been arming Native Americans and were encouraging them to fight American settlers moving west. James Madison felt that he had no other option but to lead his nation into war. On June 18, 1812, the United States declared war on Great Britain.